Thank you for staying with us this morning. Allow me to use my masculine voice to start with. Now, statistics says that the number of women in the police force has reduced since 2016. In 2016, it was about 19.09% of women in the Nigeria police. It drops to 17.17 that's 17.77 in 2017, and down to 9.75% in 2018, which is the most recent data we have. Now, we also understand that November last year, the Women Affairs Ministry said it is partnered with the police in reserving 35% of recruitment slots for female participants. And the ministry said it is in fulfillment of the national gender policy, which formulated a 35% affirmative action. And a number of other issues to raise this morning. Let's welcome the Minister of State for Police Affairs as part of our special this morning concerning the International Women's Day. Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, she's right there on your screen, joining us from our Abuja studio. Thanks for joining us this morning, madam. And happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me, and happy International Women's Day.
Well, maybe to the single fathers, I'm not one, at least not anymore. But to the issue at hand, for you, as Minister of State for Police Affairs, what are the most pertinent needs of women, particularly those in the force, in security in Nigeria?
There's many of them. Most importantly is we've just reviewed the gender policy for the police, and we have an act, the Police Act of 2020 that has also been reenacted. So we're working to ensure that the regulations, are in line with the act, because the regulations are still backdated, because that will support the implementation of the gender policy. And also, thanks to UN Women, they're supporting also to come up with the implementation, plan for our reviewed gender policy. So that would help address the challenges of women in the police force, the Nigerian police force.
What exactly are these recommendations that you are talking about? Because from part of the things that we have had in some sectors of our security architecture is that certain things are they're professional. Consequently, compromising them for women might be an issue. So how significantly do you think these things that you're talking about will affect our security architecture?
When the women in the force, or when we have more women in the force, and they've been well catered for, they would also be able to contribute better in the response to securing the nation. When they have better working conditions, when they've been put into consideration, flexi working hours, because women also have to tend to the home front, and they also have peculiar issues, around, delivery of service. So when all these things are being put into consideration, there's been some very, very strict, policies with the old act. Both the new act and the new policies, all these have been addressed. So we're working collectively with the security policy experts to ensure that, we give women, a conducive working environment, a thriving, policy, so that they can also give it their best shot. And I'm so impressed with the recent enrollment in POLAC, because we've seen a lot of women being enrolled into the police academy, and there's an ongoing recruitment, and I'm sure we would push to see that women are being accommodated.
Madam, what reason can you adduce for the reduction from 19.9% to 17.77% in just a space of 12 months for recruitment of women into the force.
The statistics I have is 30% women. And I know that 30% is not enough. So like I said, there's an ongoing recruitment exercise. We'll ensure that we have more women. If you look at India, for example, they have about 3.8 million police officers, and 2.5 million of them are women, because they understand the challenges of communities. And that is the direction we're going as a country: community policing, neighborhood policing, because that's where the problems are. So would advocate for more women so that, they can work with communities, work with families to see that we're addressing our challenges from the root causes.
Is it that women are not joining the force, or they come in, they don't do well, so they're, let by the wayside?
No, women are interested. There's interest and there's participation. If you look at the statistics of the women that have indicated interest, that have applied, it's, they're in numbers. So women are interested and they do well in the police force. Like I mentioned earlier on, they do have challenges, but we work. I'll never take my being here for granted. We must thank Mr. President for his wisdom. And one of my priorities is to see that we kind of support women to come into the policing space and for them to also do well. One thing that I'm very proud of is the ongoing mentoring program by the senior police officers, the senior female police officers. They ensure that they mentor the junior officers, because they know the challenges that they went through when they started. So they help them to kind of overcome it. They mentor them, they support them so that they don't fall off, or they don't find it as difficult as they did many years ago. So that's also one of the programs that we must support.
I don't know if you watched the last segment, but our last guest, who is in the security space, noted that there are no women in the higher echelons of the police force. Why is that so?
There are women, but there are not enough women. And this particular challenge is not just, peculiar to the police force. It's across board. Yes, there are good women at the higher levels. We want them to go higher to the rank of the IGP, and I'm confident that one day it will happen. But we'll try to kind of encourage more women to come up. We have female CPs, we have 2 female AIGs. I pray that we would have female DIGs too in the nearest future. So we're doing well, but we can do better. And the challenge is not just peculiar to the security sector or to the policing, to policing in Nigeria. It's across board. But I know that once we do things intentionally and we strategize, we'll be able to see more women reflect at the higher levels.
Is it that the conditions are rather stringent? Because we have some material here about differentiating between the married woman and the unmarried woman, and the one who can get pregnant and the one who cannot get pregnant. Are all these militating against females joining the force?
These conditions, yes, they do add up, but they don't stop women. We still have women, regardless of their circumstances, they still rise. We've had female CPs in states. We have other security agencies with females being directors in the states. So yes, there are challenges, but it doesn't stop a woman, from doing whatever she has to do, from contributing, from supporting, in ensuring, that our nation is secured. So yes, the challenges are there, but they will not deter us. And women have continued to do it regardless. And we'll ensure that we back it up with the right policies so that we encourage them to rise as high as they would want to.
That's impressive, madam. One of the questions that I put to our guest earlier, I'd like to put the same question to you as well, which is, what significant difference will it make to have women in the top echelon of any security architecture in the country? And secondly, what difference will it make to have an abundance or a significant number of women in the police in the different communities? How will it make a difference in our security architecture?
You know, not just in the security architecture, but I feel that we should strike a balance. We should have women and men, you know, contribute. We should have that, you know, that collaboration. You know, it's a complementary role. And I can assure you that when we have more females in policing, you know, they'll be able to, because they're the ones in the communities. These are the mothers, you know. There's no way a mother goes to bed without ensuring she knows where her kids are, that the doors to the house are locked. The same applies to the larger society. When you have women, you know, they can be watch guards, they can be informants, they can work with family units, because that's where it all starts. So the more women we have in the security space, the better for the nation, and we'll be able to, you know, achieve, you know, the peace and security that we crave for.
You know, I read up on something about, you know, we talk about patriarchal societies a lot. I've seen that there are some communities that women they're dominant, even though those communities are less than 10 from what I've seen, whether nations or countries or communities and all over the world, there are not so many today, and that is a significant thing. However, still talking about this particular issue, and gladly, you are more than just Minister of Police Affairs for Women. You are a woman who is in charge of police affairs all over the country, whether they are male police or female police. That disturbing occurrence of a few days ago in Kaduna, how did it reach? How did you take it? How did it affect you? How did you feel about it? Knowing importantly that one, it's children that have been abducted, and two, their mothers are going to be mentally, you know, unstable right now.
We condemn it. It should never happen. I agree with the First Lady. I heard her speak. She condemned it. She called for the most severe punishment for these perpetrators. And I feel that, you know, we must go in that direction, because when they do it and they get away with it, we must go the capital punishment route for people who kind of go after our vulnerable group of people. I can't say things that would jeopardize investigation or operations at this stage. But what I can assure you is that the Safe School program will be reviewed, and we'll continue to work with the subnationals to see that we secure the schools and we put in the right kind of measures to ensure that, you know, these children are well protected in school environment, in communities, in societies. As you may be aware, we've rolled out the community policing engagements. We've always had a system in place, but what we want to do is to strengthen it and to make it more tailored fit, so that communities are alive to their responsibilities. Everybody has a responsibility or obligation towards policing their community, either as an informant or a watchguard or the police officers in those communities. We would like them to work in collaboration to address our security challenges. Because that is Mr. President's priority, working towards our collective prosperity and our national security.
Absolutely. And that is the responsibility of everyone in Nigeria, as you have said, everyone in every community. But that is also the reason we say that the governor of a state is the chief security officer of the state, just as we say that the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So looking from where, you know, the pinnacle you see as Minister of State for Police Affairs in Nigeria, what would be, because this is becoming a little more uncomfortably frequent than normal, than should be. Before this one that we're talking about in Kaduna State now, was it in Borno State or is it Bauchi that we had IDP, an IDP was invaded, 200 women were taken away, confirmed by the United Nations. Do you see a role for state governments to coordinate these communities that you have talked about, fund them, equip them in a way that these things are staved off? Or you think that there are some political undertones that Nigerians shouldn't even hear about?
This has happened. I'm sure the operatives are in the field, ensuring that they rescue the victims. From the policy side, we have to intensify efforts, we have to be very, very intentional about the emergence of a technology-led, of a community-based policing, because that's the only acceptable way of policing. We must engage communities. We must. The police can't be everywhere, but we citizens are everywhere, and we all have an obligation towards ensuring that we're safe. So how can we work with the security operatives in our communities to see that, yes, we are secured? What measures can government put in place to ensure that, that all these things go on, don't go unnoticed? Like you said, it's a large number of people that move, and they cannot just move without any intel, or, without anybody seeing them. But some people see and they do not speak. And before you know it, it becomes a very big crisis for everybody. So I feel that we must all come together to work as one in securing our communities and securing our country, because we all have an obligation and we all have responsibility. And like I said, from the policy side, we have policy gaps. We're ensuring that, yes, we address those policies so that there are consequences.
Madam, about 3.5 years ago, we had the End SARS, whereas it called for the abolition of a particular arm of the police force. It's also brought into sharp focus the plight of the Nigerian policeman. Has any improvement been brought to bear on the condition of the Nigerian policeman, or should I say, members of the police force?
I'm sure you have your answers, but I'll still, shed a bit of light. There's never been a proper reform since 1999 of the police force. We've had about 8 or about 7 reform papers, but what I can assure you is that there's an ongoing reform, and the ongoing reform will help strengthen policing in the land. It will affect every area of policing in Nigeria. Infrastructural gaps, will address policy gaps, we'll be able to also strengthen the welfare of the police, would also be able to work on their technical and operational efficiencies, and would also, rebrand the police so that, it's policing by consent, which is the acceptable means of policing globally. So yes, we're working on a reform. It should excite everyone. We're inviting all experts, all well-meaning Nigerians to join us in the process. This administration needs all the support that we can get. A lot of work is being done in the background. We need to support the emergence of the 21st century policing, which is what we deserve as a country.
Somehow, we still see policemen on duty wearing flip-flops. Are they still buying their uniforms and their work boots from their pockets?
We have one of the biggest police force in the world, about 350,000. That is a lot. That is capital intensive for any government.
220 million people?
We're being very creative. I know that it's not enough, but still we have a very big force. It's one of the biggest establishments in Nigeria. So we're doing all we can. We're being very creative. We're challenging the status quo to ensure that we have enough funding. As a country, we can't put all our funds into policing because we have other critical challenges. But what we want to do is to ensure that we have, available funding to be able to address all this. And it has to be a collective effort. Everybody would have to support the emergence of a 21st century police force. The government can't do it alone. The government won't do it alone. It will require whole of society, whole of government, whole of system approach to ensuring that this reform happens and then it is sustained. So yes, we'll kit the police properly, but it won't be the responsibility of only government. Everybody is going to support the process. And that's the system we're trying to put in place.
Madam, one of the things that has been said, even this morning on this program, I think it was even Alera that brought up that fact, and our guest as well, the fact that during this recent abduction that we are talking about, policemen were not even in sight. It couldn't have taken just 60 seconds for 287 children to be moved. It couldn't have taken less than 15 to 20 minutes. And even if they walked, some people must have seen them and police officers must have seen them. We also know that there are intelligence officers in all 774 local government areas of the country. So Nigerians are most certainly going to be asking questions about exactly what happened here. Where were the policemen? Where were the security operatives that all of this sorrow has to come to some women on International Women's Day? Is there anything you can say to us about that?
I'm sure you agree with me that the police officers can't be everywhere. And that's why we all have to be alive to our responsibilities, in every community. And I'm sure you agree that in the last, few months, you've seen the police intensify efforts. It's all due to the emergent strategies that we're deploying in the field. I must commend the IGP with the team. You've seen the launch of the Special Intervention Squad. You've seen them being trained. So a lot is happening, but it cannot all happen at once. And that's why I'm saying that we need all the support from whole of society to ensure that, yes, we achieve the highest form of policing. We are able to achieve the kind of national security, internal security that we require. We're working alongside other, internal security agencies to see that, yes, we have a safe and secure environment, communities across board. So yes, a lot is being done, a lot needs to be done, and trust me, we are all working, all hands are on deck. Okay. And we need everybody to also play their own part, because everybody has a role to play.
There are those who would say maybe these things are happening and there are no consequences, and that is why these things continue. Since 2009, the big abduction of the Chibok girls up until now, the last administration has several hundreds of people abducted per time, sometimes even in a series. This one we're talking about happened days before another one that happened in Borno, yet no consequences yet. What kind of, I know what the First Lady has said, that there is no power of legislation or authority to what she says. She's just giving counsel. You are Minister of State for Police Affairs. How soon should people expect any response, any significant action? And what kind of consequences do you think should be considered for anyone who abducts another person in our nation?
Like I mentioned, we have policy reforms that is ongoing. These policies will be able to clearly, hold people accountable for their actions. We're working with the Ministry of Justice. We're working with policy experts to see that, yes, we put in the stringent, measures in place so that you know that when you're a criminal mind and you're being caught, you face, the consequences. Okay. And there's been a lot of complacency in the security space. I'm sure you agree, in the past. And there's also a lot of sabotage, from unpatriotic elements. And I can assure you that all measures are being put in place to deter them, because it can't be business as usual. You can't just watch some bunch of unpatriotic people, due to their own selfish reasons, sabotage our security. So measures are ongoing, and a lot will, you see an emergence, very, very strong policies being put in place.
Okay. Well, let's conclude this.
Security and collective prosperity.
Yes. Let's wrap up with this one, madam. You're a woman, and you grew up in this, at least some measure of some parts of this, nation. Speak to a young lady, a young woman somewhere in this nation, who is also being celebrated as part of this International Women's Day celebration. What is your message to them? To those who are whose hopes and hearts are already feigning as a result of the things that they see and hear in our country. What is your word to them? What is your advice? What's your counsel to them on International Women's Day?
My message to every woman and men, because I have two sons, there's been an advocacy on, supporting the emergence of strong women. The strong women do need strong men. So my message to the strong women and men is to be alive to their responsibilities. It's an era of nation building. It will require collective efforts. Everybody must play their part. There's no country that is not going through some sort of challenges. But we must believe in our country. We must also be ready to contribute our own bit. It's not enough to criticize. Constructive criticism are welcomed, but you cannot, just highlight problems without highlighting the solutions. You cannot, devoid yourself of playing a part and see it as somebody's responsibility. We are all government. There are people that, yes, are responsible for the policies or for performing the critical functions of government, but everybody has a role to play. So my message in this National Women's Day, with the theme inspiring inclusivity and also investing in women, is that we should inspire by our actions, by our thoughts. We should be careful what we put out there, because some of these things do have security implications. Some of these things, would deter, the right kind of growth that we require as a country. It's an era of being very, very responsible as a Nigerian and very, very patriotic. There's no nation that has grown to its fullest potential without the patriotism of its citizens. So this is a time that we call for support for this administration. We can see very, very strong and intentional policies being rolled out. We must support the emergence of a country that we dream about. And as a woman, we must be alive to our responsibilities within the homes, within the community, and everybody must do their part. It's not a time whereby you just sit down and do nothing. No. We're playing catch up as a country, so everybody must be on the go, playing their own role. Everyone has a role to play, and we must be alive to those responsibilities.
Thank you so much for being here this morning, Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, Minister of State for Police Affairs, and happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much for having me, and happy International Women's Day to all the women and the viewers.
Okay. Right, we're back right after now. It's still Women's Day. International Women's Day. We'll be right back.